Have you ever felt crushed by someone else's words? Maybe it was a bully from your past or a toxic coworker or boss or even just somebody who was having a bad day and decided to take it out on you. It's tough. Like those words, those moments, they can leave us feeling so small, so insignificant, second guessing ourselves and often even spiraling into catastrophic worst case scenarios. We start generalizing and thinking just because one person told us something, everybody else thinks it. And in today's episode, we are diving into just that. This messy world of bullies, mean people, and catastrophizing. I'm going to break it down, how to handle the hurt, why some people act the way they do, and also how to make sure you're not doing it to yourself. Because we catastrophize and send ourselves spiraling into our own panics. In this episode, we'll be coaching on what to do about bullies, old voices that haunt you, and mean people in real life. How to make sure you're not being a bully to yourself by being too hard on yourself, being too self-critical, and also the dangers of catastrophizing and how to know if you're doing it unknowingly or not. Buckle up. You have a great episode ahead. Hey guys, it's Trish Blackwell, and you're listening to the Confidence Podcast, episode 629. If you're new to the show, we want to welcome you. I'm so glad of all the podcasts in the world, you stumbled upon this one. If you're a returning listener, I'm so glad you're back. Hey, we drop new episodes every single Tuesday. I have been doing that faithfully for over 11 years straight. So here's what I want you to know. You can count on me to keep showing up for you, to remind you that you have greatness inside of you, to remind you that yes, you will be discouraged, but it's okay to feel discouraged. It's what we do with discouragement in life that matters. Keep doing things, keep showing up. Because if you don't, your discouragement will turn to derailment. It will turn to being deflated. It will turn to being defeated. And you'll say, what's the point? And we want to avoid at all costs that self-victimizing statement of, it doesn't matter. Because it does matter, and you matter, and your purpose in this world matters, which is why we want to recharge and reinvigorate our confidence and our mental clarity on a daily basis. And this show is one way to help. So as you heard, we're talking about mean people, because the world, unfortunately, is full of them. And I want to offer to you today that they're not always mean on purpose. Sometimes they are. But if we could look and pull back the lens a little and give people some grace. You know, I was challenged in my own life recently. I find that if I'm exhausted, frustrated, and I've had a challenging day, I go into self-pity and I end up my judging voice to myself and towards others comes out. And so let's just acknowledge that as humans we judge. But we don't, it doesn't serve us well. It is not what walking in love or living a really impactful, encouraging life looks like. And so we're going to take away the judgment of others, even judging people for being mean, and have compassion on understanding that they are hurt people. Hurt people. Now, we don't let them continue to hurt us. This is where we get our power back. But we can acknowledge that the bullying and the meanness and the whatever, the vindictiveness has nothing to do with us. We just happen to be who that person took it out on. They took out their own insecurities, their own quest for power or putting others down. There's so many angles that could take. But really, what I want to give to you is that you will have mean people. There will be people who say things they shouldn't say. It's your choice what you do with that in your life. And I know for my own self, I held on to so many mean thoughts, mean statements that people said to me through the years, through childhood, through middle school, high school, college, offhanded things that honestly, whoever said it probably doesn't even remember saying. And I've done the therapy work and I've done the coaching work. And I want to tell you, ultimately, you have a choice. Are you going to hold on to a random statement and let that dictate your thought about yourself in this world? Or are you going to decide for yourself whether you believe what God says about you, which is your value is immense, that you have great purpose, and that you are incredibly designed, and that your path is different than anyone else's? You don't have to listen to the bully voice if you don't want to. because it's not true. Now that's part of the reason we get so hurt by it, because deep down we're afraid, what if no one likes me? What if what they said, they teased me about, really is true about me? And this is why I really recommend coaching as well, of asking yourself, what am I making this mean? And what do I want to make it mean? And taking some of those fears and reframing them and journaling them. And fundamentally, there's this, you might find it interesting that we're talking about bullies today, and I also looped in catastrophizing, because I believe that catastrophizing, which is when you are obsessed with the worst case scenario, that we're overwhelmed in anxiety by worst case scenarios, or we freeze in fear and we overthink anything that we're doing because we're still worried that the other shoe is going to drop. And so we don't chase life. We don't put ourselves out there. We tiptoe towards our goals instead of running the race set before us. So catastrophizing happens sometimes because we have heard so many people say negative things about other people. So even if the mean people are not talking about you, you are possibly letting mean people, mean gossip, people, headlines and news, people who are bored of their lives, who say things about other people's lives, hold you back from living your greatest life. And so because you catastrophize, you wonder about what could happen, what will they say. So we freeze, we overthink, we stagnate, and we let fear win. Can I tell you today? So we are a global community. This podcast has been downloaded in over 150 countries. So can we decide as a global community of people who are world changers and difference makers by being the best version of themselves and showing up in boldness and bravery, that we will not be a person who lets fear win? Fear doesn't get the last voice. We step into courage. And that's why I love just the field of confidence that I study, because confidence and courage go together. Confidence is faith. It's boldness. It's saying, I see you, fear, and I'm going to take action anyways. Before I dive in more coaching, I did want to make one quick announcement. Two, actually. Today's episode was a listener requested episode. So Emily reached out on Instagram and she sent me a message. And I want you to know, one, I love your feedback. I love when you guys reach out on IG or Facebook and let me know what you want more of. Tell me how the show has been helping you and what you'd like some more specific episodes on. And so I'm always looking for feedback. And also, if you want continued inspiration throughout the week, not just here on the podcast, make sure you come follow me on Instagram. I'm Trish_Blackwell over there. Here's what Emily said. She said, could you make an episode on how to overcome bullying? I've struggled with many nasty people through my life and have a tendency to personalize and blame myself. I know you've touched on what to do when people don't like you, and maybe you're just strawberries to them and they don't like strawberries. But how do you stay confident when it goes beyond that to rude and unkind behavior? So I love that question. We're going to address that immediately after I make this next announcement. Back by popular demand, one of my most requested workshops that we do is actually open to the public. It is a paid workshop. It's the Dream Life Design. So what we're going to do is we're going to plan our year together. You're going to dream what you want for 2025. We're going to design and assign what habits you will need and what milestones need to be set to reach. And we're going to do the work. We're going to put together an actual plan that we will create together. And it's all happening in my live virtual event. That's December 18th. If you're listening live, you can still sign up. December 18th. It's a Wednesday night from 7:30 to 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is New York City time. You can find out more and get yourself registered at trishblackwell.com/2025. This is a 2-hour event where we will, by the end of it, you're going to know exactly what your 2025 is going to look like. You're going to have confidence in how to, one, believe that all that you want is possible, but then we're also going to put together an action plan and a mindset plan so that you can encourage yourself through the year to come, because there will be discouragement. You will have plateaus. You will be frustrated. So when we plan our year together, when you work with me, we plan anticipating the hurdles. And this is a plan that I've done. We've done this event, I think for the past 4 years. My students keep coming back for it. They check in throughout the year and they tell me that they're checking back with the plan. So you get the workbook, you get the live coaching, you get support from me. And if you can't make it live, it's still well worth your while to sign up, because you'll get all the resources plus the replay. So that will be recorded, again, trishblackwell.com/2025 to get signed up. But let's go to our listeners' question of like, what do you do when people cross the line and it's actually rude? When people are rude or unkind, whether it's dismissive and unintentional, we can call it quote unquote, if you're watching on Spotify or YouTube, you see my air quotes, unintentional or intentional. It doesn't actually matter because only God knows someone's heart, someone's intentions. What we can decide is we can choose to be unbothered. I've been coaching with some of my one-on-one clients about this. When someone's unkind and rude, I have two choices. Three, really. React, don't react, or offer the opposite. So react by being as baffled that somebody could be so rude, be bothered, right? So when someone's rude and I'm not being mentally aware, so like when my mindset is on point and my awareness, my intentionality, and I've cleaned my brain out and done the journaling, and I am walking with intention and confidence in my day. When someone's rude to me, I'm like, oh man, okay, I'm unbothered. That's okay. It seems to be that, like in my head, I say like, gosh, they're having a bad day. Like it's clear they're having a bad day. And I'm really glad I'm not in their brain today. Like their brain today must stink. I know we all know this. I had a somewhat frustrating day yesterday, a string of frustrations. And I can tell you, to be in your brain when you're frustrated and things are going negative, remember this, negativity attracts negativity. So life feels hard. Life feels frustrating, an uphill battle when you're being negative. And so when someone is rude and when they're unkind and they're mean, whether they know you or not, this could be someone close to you that they do it on purpose to hurt you, or it could be somebody that you pass in Walmart or somebody that cuts you off in traffic. I think pulling back the lens and understanding for people to be that self-focused and that dismissive and that unloving is a reflection of what's going on in their head and in their heart. And so that means I look at that with compassion because I don't have to personalize it. I look at it with compassion and gratitude to go, I'm so glad that that's not my brain today. I'm so glad that I can be a woman who's unbothered by other people's hatred, other people's dismissiveness, other people's desire to put me down. And what we do, and I was coaching with my one-on-one clients about this, is the art of practicing neutrality is a walk of confidence. To say, I hear those words, they're hurtful. And we can acknowledge that hurt. Because you can go on my Instagram and see that this past summer, I got trolled. If I put a picture of myself in a bathing suit, people troll me. They have all kinds of hate, all kinds of comments, all kinds of criticisms, all kinds of, for whatever reason, they say mean things. And I can look at that and be offended, or I can look at that and go, I'm just not for that person right now. Their negative comment has nothing to do with me. It's a reflection of they're judging me and wanting to pick me apart in order to build themselves up. And I can see that. It doesn't also mean that those comments haven't made me cry. So when there is someone mean or someone says something, I'm not saying like, oh, it doesn't bother me. Like, it's going to bother you. But allow it to bother you and then let it pass. The key is don't hold on to it. We keep, my mother-in-law taught me in marriage to build a positive relationship, you keep a short list of offenses, meaning don't keep track of all the ways in which your spouse has messed up. In the same way, what if I just walked through life with a short list of offenses that I chose to extend people grace instead of judgment back to them, or how could they say that, and choosing to be so insulted by them. Because we acknowledge a lot of it is just pain. Even if they're truly intentionally bullying you, it's pain or fear that you're rising up and doing something with your life that's going to make them look bad. So listen, the naysayers, let them be naysayers. If you're gonna go live a life worth telling a story about, the dream life, design your dream life, you're gonna have people who don't like it. And they don't like it because they think it's not fair, because they think you just got lucky. They don't know how intentional you're being, how much work you've put in. Let them say negative things. Let them speculate. Let them bully you, because it doesn't matter as long as you know whose opinions matter in this world. But then we also have to consider, what about your relationship with bullying? What core stories do you have And really, when you think about bullying in your life, whether it was childhood, maybe it was in college, maybe it's you have some mean neighbors, or all of your friends are in a clique and you're kind of feeling the outside, and you're not bullied, but you're not always included, which makes you feel left out. Really, what you want to identify is, what's my core story? What's my relationship with bullying in my life? And what am I making it mean? Now, most of us, the story is from 10 years ago, maybe even longer. We have to ask ourselves honestly, am I still holding on to this story? And if I am, why? And if I am, do I want to keep holding on to it? Do I want to keep giving it meaning? I used to be teased as a kid because my brother was sort of as a high schooler, like could have modeled kind of handsome, very mature looking for his age. And all the girls, and many of you have heard this story. If you've read my book, you've heard this story. Many girls, people pretended to be nice to me in order to get close to him. And I knew that. And there were some mean girls. They were mean. I had girls ask me how it was possible that we had the same parents, because he was so hot and I was so not. I was essentially told I was an ugly duckling. I was told that there's no way you have the same parents. There was offhanded, 1990s girl bullying, but I held onto that story for a long time until I did the work with coaching to change the narrative. This is why I love narrative intelligence. If you don't yet know how to change the narrative of a story, I teach everything in my narrative intelligence bundle. You can get access to the course. You get lifetime access when you purchase it via the link that's in the show notes. But if you're interested, check out trishblackwell.com/NQ. I teach you how to change the narrative. When you change the narrative, you have power back. So you have to ask yourself, were those things that were said to you true? They felt true to me when I was in high school and the pretty girls were like, oh, what's wrong with you? He's amazing. Something messed up for you. But when I look at it now, there was nothing wrong with how I looked at that age. I was cute. They were just mean girls. And so you have to ask yourself, were those things that were said to you by that person at that time that you're still wounded by, were they true? And was your interpretation of it true? So my own examples of offhanded, lighthearted, it's just Trish bullying, where you're not pretty enough. My messages that I internalized were you're not pretty enough. You're too Christian, be cooler. You're too intense. You're not enough. You need to be cooler. You need to be skinnier. You need to be funnier. Because really it's less about what the bully says and more about what do you believe. And what do you internalize? That's where you're giving the bully power. Bullies are just offering phrases, words. And you can either choose to hear them and internalize them, or choose to let them wash over your shoulder and be unbothered. And so what I want you to do is I want you to identify bully narrative in your life. Meaning, the bully narrative is a language. And like any language, an accent, you'll be onto it when it starts being spoken around you or in you. So many of you know I love languages. I'm fluent in French and Spanish, and I'm particularly passionate about French. So anytime I am somewhere in public and I think I hear a slight French accent, whether they're speaking English with a little French accent or I hear what might be French, I immediately gravitate towards that person. And I'm always like, oh, shoot, they're talking in German. But I am so drawn to French that I want to be around people who speak French and talk to people. And the bully narrative is the same. Once you're onto an accent, you're like, oh, I knew. Or if you're here in the US, a deep Southern drawl, you know when that person's from the South and you're like, oh, okay. So we can identify accents. We identify language. The same thing, once you know what does bullying sound like to you, you have to be on into it and know, oh, this person, whether they intend to or not, we don't need to label them and box them as a bully. We just go, this language is a language that I am not going to be fluent in right now. I'm going to acknowledge their words, walk away, and choose to say that language means nothing to me. And the other question, and I offered this earlier in today's podcast, of sometimes when we do this work on our relationship with bullying, the hard pill to swallow is we've been our own bullies. I was my biggest bully. I had a lot of self-hatred, growing up as a perfectionist and all or nothing person. It was either I'm doing really well or I'm a waste of space and nothing matters and I'm a disappointment to myself, my family, and everyone who knows me. Like it was, the pendulum was so intense. And then I would beat myself up and punish myself and then continually criticize myself for not being enough, for not being skinny enough, for not being cool enough. All the things that I had internalized from the small offhanded comments of bullies, I then took and further bullied myself on. And some of the most profound work that I've done in my own personal journey between coaching and therapy was to learn self-kindness, was to learn self-love, was to learn to not be a bully to myself. If I want to walk in love and kindness in my life, then I was being hypocritical to be the opposite person in my brain. Everyone knew me as this super positive, loving, happy, kind person. But if they'd been in my brain for 2 decades, they would have been like, "Wow, you're pretty mean." Because I would say things to myself, about my eating, what I ate, what I didn't eat, about my workout, about how I looked, that you wouldn't dare hear me say out loud to anybody. Because it would be so massively mean, inappropriate, and unjustified and untrue. The things I said to myself, and I'm sure you're shaking your head, that you understand what I'm saying here, you would never say to another human because it's too mean. And also you can look at that and be like, that's not true. They have all this other going for them. So there's a forgiveness that has to happen if you were the bully yourself, to yourself. But let's also speak to some of the growth that comes with bullying is forgiving your past bullies and also walking in grace to people who are mean or who are bullying in your life right now. And just saying, hey, it sounds like you're in a bad place. I don't take offense. I'm just going to be unbothered. I'm not going to internalize this, and I'm going to move on. But I had a lot of growth when I forgave the bullies who intended to bully me, but also the ones who didn't. The ones who didn't know what they said was even mean. When you take yourself out of the place of being a victim, the victim of bullies, then you are able to have more power, because what other bullies are doing is they're trying to make themselves feel more powerful, important, or cool. And a bully action is a reflection of extreme insecurity and a desperate attempt to do something to feel better, to feel elevated. And so when you feel torn down, it's your job to build yourself back up. And this is why coaching is so powerful. Build yourself back up, self-validate, learn to cheer yourself on, learn to be a friend to yourself. I had to learn how to be a friend to myself, which is so weird to say, but it's deeply powerful. I spent about 4 years being curious in my journal, being curious in the way I lived my life to go, what does it look like to be a friend to myself? I knew I was a really good friend to others, but how could I be that good of a friend to myself? And it was with practice. You got to take the power back, y'all. We've got to take the power back. I want you to decide to be unbothered by unhappy people. Just unbothered. Decide to be unbothered by that mean, toxic person at work. This is the work. We don't keep saying, oh, they're toxic. We acknowledge that, put boundaries, and just go, you know what? I'm going to practice being neutral. I'm going to practice being unbothered. And what you're going to need to do is when they say something that makes you, you write it down. You say, what do I want to make this mean? Make it mean, what you might be making it mean, they're so mean and they're picking on me and I hate this work environment. And you could say that, but that's just not helpful if you're going to need to keep working and getting that paycheck. So how about we say something else, reframe it in a helpful way? Which is, they said something awful to me. They're picking at me. They're trying to put me down. They're trying to get promoted over me. So maybe we say the reframe is, that person has some intense dislike of me, and I give them permission to. Their distraction doesn't impact my path forward. Or maybe a kinder approach is, they must be going through a lot. I'm going to learn to not take what they say personal. This is me practicing depersonalizing someone who's mean. This is me walking in power. This is me extending someone grace and not letting it distract me from being excellent at what I do here. They will not steal my joy. That unhappy person will not steal my joy. That one was a powerful reframe for me. The more you can practice being unbothered, the more confident you will come across. And so it goes back to, gosh, it must not be pleasant in their brain right now. Or wow, they're put a lot of effort into hatred and criticism. They're so negative leaning that they're probably immune to the awareness of their own negativity. They think they're just saying what it is. And their legacy is unkind. I love that I can control and shape my own legacy. And my legacy is going to be kindness. My legacy is going to be showing up even when I'm afraid. My legacy is going to be love. And my legacy is going to be building my life unbothered by the distractors along the way. So let's talk very briefly about catastrophizing. Catastrophizing is a cognitive distortion where a person assumes the worst case possible outcome of a situation, often imagining negative consequences far beyond what's likely to occur. And this type of thinking can amplify stress and anxiety, making life feel overwhelming and unmanageable. So everyday catastrophizing in situations would look something like, maybe you made a mistake at work and then you think, oh my gosh, I'm going to get fired and I'll never find another job. It's very black and white thinking. I'm raising my hand because I used to be the best catastrophizer ever, but it created massive anxiety. How about a health concern? Maybe you have a minor headache and you're like, oh my gosh, this is probably a brain tumor. Okay. Or social interaction, thinking if I mess up this presentation, everyone's going to hate me and I'll ruin my career. So catastrophizing stems from anxiety, post-traumatic experiences, or simply a habit of negative thinking. And here's what I want you to do to overcome it. I want you to challenge the thought. Hey, what evidence do I have that this is likely to happen? How often is this true? Reframe the situation and then focus on problem solving and reminding yourself that you are able to pivot, that you are not alone, and that you are a person, going back to what we talked about at the beginning, that does not walk in fear. Right? You will not let catastrophizing dramatize your life unnecessarily. And the reason I wanted to talk for a moment in today's episode about catastrophizing is as often we take the negative comments of people, and they could just be offhanded comments of maybe somebody doesn't understand your passion, or somebody in your family made an offhanded comment about you starting your business or that passion project of yours or the book you're writing. And it wasn't actually even a mean comment. It was just oh, that's cool. Like you just wanted more of a reaction. You wanted more support. And sometimes we catastrophize that into nobody understands me. Nobody gets me. I feel bullied by my own family. Or like we don't necessarily say that, but what we do is we take on and absorb a lot of the negative outcome that comes from our interactions with bullies and mean people. And then we feel alone. We feel attacked. We feel alone. And we feel helpless. And so I wanted to encourage you that when you are finding yourself being in a place of catastrophizing, call yourself out and say, listen, I'm not going to bully, because what it is actually it's a form of bullying yourself with fear and anxiety, trying to control that which you cannot control. There's so many things that we cannot control. And it's like, it truly is foolish to go, I'm going to worry about all these things and like overthink all the things when we have no control over what other people are doing. Like we get so ahead into the future with our catastrophizing that our anxiety holds us still. And we feel helpless. My goal is to help you always feel like you're walking in power. And so we have to talk back to it. Even if your power phrase is as simple as I will spend my emotional energy only worrying about the today. I refuse to be a person who worries unnecessarily over that which I cannot control. That will help you simplify it. Simplify it. And if you're a person of faith like I am, we have such a tool to go, I have nothing to worry about. God is with me. He is before me. He's around me. He's got me. And in the meantime, he can carry my burdens for me. So fundamentally, as we wrap up today's episode, listen, you get to choose if you're going to let unhappy people. I think of bullies as unhappy people. They are power hungry. They are struggling. They are intentionally mean, whatever reason. Like fundamentally, they're unhappy. You don't have to take advice or give any weight to the opinion of somebody who does not have the results in life that you want. So if you want to be happy and to live a life that's amazing, a life worth telling a story about, a life that's a dream life, well, do we care what the unhappy people say? No, it's almost like hearing a language that we don't know. It's like
If I heard German, I wouldn't know what you're saying. So it doesn't bother me. You can talk trash about me in front of me. There's a lot of languages I don't know, right? So come and speak Russian in front of me. Come and speak Japanese and trash talk me, but do it with a smile and I'll think you're complimenting me. Because when I don't register the language doesn't harm me. You don't have to register the language of bullies, of mean people, of unhappy people, because don't take advice from people whose life you don't want. Right? That's why we can be unbothered until they're in the arena, until they're living a big life. You're not interested in their feedback or their commentary. You can look at commentary as just commentary. There's going to be positive commentary in your life and there's going to be negative, and all of it's okay. Focus on what you want to hold on to. And also, I think there's going to be a lot of us have some work in releasing and forgiving past narratives, forgiving past bullies, forgiving ourselves for bullying ourselves, and extending grace to people in the moment while not letting ourselves be walked over. So you extend grace and you stand up for yourself and you advocate for yourself and you say, hey, listen, I'm not going to engage if you continue to speak to me that way. Right? There's and in the broader sense, if this is a true active thing, we report that behavior to authority, teacher, HR, platform moderation, right? Surround yourself, document your incidents, surround yourself with supportive people. So there's some tactical things to do if you're in an active bullying situation. But I wanted to coach today more about our thoughts and what message you're holding on to, what narrative you're holding on to, about what that bully said or what that mean person said or that person offhandedly said to you. What did you make it mean? And what do you want to make it mean in the future? You can change the narrative anytime you want. And that's where we get our power back. Your power is in your thinking. Your power is in your narrative intelligence. And again, if you want to learn how to change, how to reframe, how to change your inner narrative, I teach it all in that narrative intelligence mastery, which is, you can get it at trishblackwell.com/NQ for narrative intelligence. If you're jamming out on today's episode and you want some more in-depth episodes, I have 3 recommendations for you. One is way throwback. Episode 27. Episode 27 is anti-self-bullying. You can find that on the website, or episode 609, which is being different and not caring what people think. And episode 614, when people don't support you or understand you. Guys, go out there today. Go be more of who God created you to be. Be you. Be free.